Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and today we are venturing somewhere terrifying. That's right, the PokeMMO Reddit. I know, a very dreadful place, but there's actually some really important information on there that's really worth talking about. Something that I talk about that I would love the devs to improve on is always communication and behind-the-scene numbers and statistics. I think the developers do a fantastic job, don't get me wrong, but there's always room for improvement. Is it my place to tell them how to do that? Probably not, but I try a little bit here and there, and I try to do it politely and nicely. That's really important. But let's go ahead and jump into it because they actually did provide some of that today, and they've been providing it more over the past year than ever. And I think that deserves a lot of applauding and a lot of appreciation. So let's jump into it. Someone made a post saying a lot of accounts have been banned for botting recently. What's going on? And he says, so I noticed that a lot of people are complaining that their accounts have been banned for botting while claiming they are innocent, and mods are telling them that they could see their player being controlled by a script. So I just wanted to know, how is that even possible? How can you know that someone is being controlled by a script by just looking at their gameplay? I just don't get it. I'm a new player, so I might just be ignorant. An incredible Reddit post, very earnestly asking a very fair question that kind of does need to be explained by the mods. So let's jump into their response. Q was very nice for taking the time out of their day to come leave this response. And they say, for players who are unfamiliar with how cheating works in online games, ban waves come and go because cheating evolves over time. I'm familiar with this because of old school RuneScape and due to their big bot busting streams, but a lot of players may not be familiar with this. So it's really cool to just start with the basics. Q's doing a great job here. We go through periods of heavy and light enforcement when it comes to cheating. Since October 1st, around 8,000 accounts have been closed for botting, or gold buying or other RMT offenses, which is a fair bit for us. 8,000 accounts since October. Now, I will say that's definitely quite a bit since you can't do bot farms and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is actually when I heard this number, I was shocked how low it was because maybe because I'm inflated. I come from old school RuneScape where bots are a huge issue. People always ask me, are bots an issue in PokeMMO? And I've got to say, not at all. I know RuneScape bans millions of bots per year. And this is just, it's obviously 16 days or so. 16 days, 8,000 bots is no small feat. I guess this was posted 3 days ago and today's the 16th. So by the 13th, within the first 2 weeks of October, they banned 8,000 accounts. Take that as you will. I see it as a small number. Depending on you can see it as a big number. It's kind of just up for perception. The majority of these bans are performed by automated anti-cheat systems based on patterns we found with programs or botnets. We see your complaints in public forums. Most of the time, they can be attributed to a certain type of player, someone who was feeling daring and decided to download a script from a sketchy website, which we already knew about. Now, I'm glad they talked about this, and I want to go ahead and address this. And maybe they'll talk about this more. I haven't pre-read this, but there's only so many bots that usually exist for a game. Usually, if there's like 3 to 5 bots that exist for a game, the developers are smart enough to know about them or at least keep tabs on them. So they're able to actually just specifically look for 3 to 5 types of bots as opposed to, just looking for all types of different things. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense or helps that narrow that down a bit. A lot of these times, these players are really egregious and they attract the attention of others who are farming normally, being reported by in-game players. This causes a GM to go, check the report, poke the bot, bonk it on the head before auto anti-cheat even gets a chance to kick in. That's how they're being banned manually by player reports. Player reports, they've repeated this many times, the devs have. Player reports go a long way. If you are around someone who you think is botting, please throw up the report. It helps out a ton. Now, I do wish there was an in-game option to quickly report someone. I do think you have to go through a support ticket on the forums at the moment to report a player. I would love to see that streamlined. Just another little thing, but there's always more to do. So let's continue on. Regardless of how a player gets banned, it results in a genre of posts with people who are upset about being bonked, with the overarching themes being one of these. I didn't do it. I did it, but please make it a temp ban. I learned my lesson. My little brother, sister / sibling did it, not me. This one's my favorite. I couldn't have been cheating when they banned me. My phone exploded yesterday. Not included. Was found cheating last week. I think this is a really good example, and these are all very common things if you've played games throughout the years, especially MMOs. You constantly see these excuses, not even in video games. I constantly give this analogy of with your hand stuck in the cookie jar as mom walks home and she's like, hey, she said no cookies before dinner, already today, and you're still doing it, and she'll come in, catch you with your hand, down in the cookie jar, and she'll be like, hey man, what are you doing? And you'll be like, wasn't me. You know, I didn't like there's something very human. It's a very human trait. It's a bad one. We got to control it. Very human trait about just trying to lie or play the victim card in situations where we know that we're guilty, to the point where our brains will even delude that to be the case. Very human, very bad. Be aware of it. We've all done it at some point or another. But I love this example because on the outside, this looks like a valid excuse, but on the inside, the devs know and the people in the back know that this isn't even possible. I think this is a really good example. The phone exploded, but he was banned a week ago. He's still trying to use that as an excuse is a really, really good example. Now, continuing on, scroll down properly. All right. Perhaps just take the sob stories you hear with a bit of salt. The players already lost their account. Why not try their luck in public? It ends up being a very desperate measure. I think you can tell by the way these players talk. When it comes to, now I want to say, taking things public can also be a genuine attempt at reversing a false ban. So I want to take that with a grain of salt. I don't want to just assume, approach this with a grain of salt, approach both with a grain of salt. I know the devs would agree with that. Anyways, continuing on. When it comes to a GM's manual review of a player, it might shock you to learn that when a bot goes left once, pauses once for half a second, right once, pauses for half a second, and then pauses again for 1 second, and it does that forever perfectly. It's not very hard to be picked out of a crowd. So he's saying it's really easy to tell when a bot breaks, and this happens. I've seen this in game many times, like Dragon Spiral Tower and stuff with all the payday pickuppers. You can even, if you want to try to see if someone's botting, something that I'll do, and this was in RuneScape as well, if you think that someone is botting, try spam trading them or spam inviting them to links, because what it will do is it will put a new input on their screen and it'll mess up like what they were doing, and that's a really good way, hilariously, to break these bots and really test in game. Now, don't annoy people, don't harass people with spam trades, but it's a funny way to really check for a bot. Advanced bots may be able to get around that, but it can definitely break some simple bots. But I'll assure you, back to the post, but I'll assure you, even you can do it, and plenty of players do it every day. No, watching players go back and forth is not the full extent of what GMs can see, but anti-cheat tools are important secrets used to keep a healthy game, and it's not in anyone's interest for me to elaborate on them. So he's saying, obviously, there's a lot of really easy bots they can detect, but they do have stuff going on in the background that they can't elaborate on for safety reasons, which is fair. You'll just have to trust me, even when it's not really necessary. We do ask our GMs to provide a little bit more from that. To the topic of permanent bans. And this is really the section where it's like, there's no right or wrong. It's kind of just the way they operate, and fair enough. And you can critique in certain ways, but you also have to give them credit in certain ways. And we'll go over that in a quick sec. We don't care to keep players who are cheating. They're not worth it. We don't offer temp bans for this offense, and that's how it's been for 10 years. Very harsh. I'm sure that this seems harsh to people who are new or unfamiliar with the scope of problems we handle, but often it's not possible to fully calculate how much a player's account can be attributed to cheating. This is super fair. If you catch someone cheating, how much have they cheated? How much do you know? That's a really tough, that makes sense. Our options are either let them go with some lengthy but ultimately temporary timeout, or do what we do, take it away entirely. We found that our audience prefers this approach. We believe the game's integrity requires it. If you want to argue, that's the post done with. If you want to argue the devs are hard asses or like really stern and on their judgments, that's fair. But if you have that argument, you also have to argue it's because they care about integrity, and it's because these are the most, not to glaze them or whatever, most integral developers that I've ever seen for a game. And you can critique them in certain ways. You can say that they're hard ass. You can say that they're not very forgiving, but you also have to say, if you think that, that's totally fine. You also have to say it's for very integral reasons, and it's for very good reasons. If you think that they're just permabanning people for the sake of it or for some other reason, it's just unlikely, but you can always have those discussions. I think it's worth to at least talk about those things. It's always worth to have every discussion talked over. If you think that there's some grand conspiracy where the devs are doing these things, I encourage you to have the discussions, and I encourage people to poke holes in your arguments and figure out, why do you think that's happening? What's the benefit? Yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Q said it a lot better than I could rambling here, so I'm just going to leave it with that. I think he covered the things pretty well. He went over some backside information, some inside information, and that's always cool to hear. So thanks again, Q, for the host, and thanks to the nice, earnest new player on Reddit who also left a fantastic post. So thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was entertaining. Hopefully it was informative. Hopefully it was helpful. Bot banning and stuff like this is always, bans in general are always really sensitive around games. It's just a touchy topic for a lot of people. So thanks for watching, pushing through. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Dislike if not. Subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO videos, and follow me on Twitch for streams Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. Discord's down below, which is really cool for upcoming holiday events. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the channel, YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal Venmo do go a long way. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and maybe don't cheat. Don't bot, guys, okay? Just play the game.